Hi, readers. Welcome back to Reading Workshop. Last time we were together, we were doing the really big, important work of making predictions. We were doing this by thinking back to what we already knew about our story, using our knowledge of how stories tend to go, and putting that together to come up with predictions to help us decide what might happen next. Well, today we're going to take that work up a notch. Today, I want to teach you that when making predictions, expert readers draw on important specifics. So the predictions not only tell the main things that are likely to happen later, but also include details about how something might happen. Those small details carry really big meaning. So last time we were together, we were thinking about our read aloud text, Indian Shoes. And as we were thinking about the story, The Accident, around the moment when Bandit knocked the water over on Ray's painting, we came up with a prediction for what might happen next. You might have yours with you from last time. We were thinking that we were pretty sure Ray would figure out a way to get another painting done. We're thinking about what we know, knowing that he's determined, especially during times of challenge. And we were thinking about our knowledge of how stories go, that normally they get worse and get worse and get worse. And then there's some type of resolution. So we were thinking this felt like a natural progression in our story. Readers, that's the first part of this work. We're thinking about what might happen later on, but now we have to think about the small details that will bring specifics to our prediction. I was thinking we could revisit our story, The Accident, from Indian Shoes, and we could do some of this work together. We can be thinking about this text, looking for the small details, and thinking about if it's answering our prediction. So let's start where we left off, where we made our prediction. It says, "What's that?" Grandpa Half Moon asked, wiping up the water that had spilled onto Ray's desktop. Ray pulled his blanket over his chin. "I've only got one day left. I give up." Ray half expected Grandpa Half Moon to give him a pep talk. All right, this is where we left off with our prediction. We were thinking, okay, it definitely feels like he's going to figure out a way to get another painting done. Let's keep an eye out for those specific, small details to help us with our prediction work. Instead, Grandpa answered, "Too bad. I sure was looking forward to that hot dog, win or lose, but I guess we won't be going downtown at all then." Readers, wow, this feels like it's going different than what we had expected. Let's keep going. On Thursday night, Ray carried Bandit into the family room, filled a Dixie cup with water, returned to his own bedroom, and locked the door behind him. "I've come this far," Ray thought. "I might as well see it through." He wanted that hot dog, and he didn't want to disappoint Grandpa. As he set the cup down on his antique desk, rain began to whisper against the stained glass window. The shing sound made Ray settle down a bit and rethink how he wanted to go about putting together his contest entry. Readers, are you thinking what I'm thinking? I'm thinking this feels like we're in the direction of a correct prediction. We knew that Ray was determined, and it feels like he's showing that here. Let's keep going. He stared at his ruined masterpiece, still sitting in the middle of his desk. The night before, Grandpa just hadn't had the heart to throw it out. Amid the dried brown puddle, Ray could see a bit of the gold of the sun, the red of the brick, and the green of the leaves. He set the painting to one side, then got out a fresh piece of paper. He glanced around the room and noticed that Grandpa's moccasin was still perched on his bookshelf. For a long time, his gaze shifted between the blank page and the ruined picture. Ray thought back to how he'd wanted to do a painting of one of Grandpa's moccasins. That way, he figured, it'd kind of be like the picture belonged to both of us. I'm noticing this detail here, readers. Think with me. I'm thinking about how, whether he was drawing the moccasin or painting the dinosaur, Ray used what was around him and in his heart to inspire his painting. This detail right here is making me think that, yes, Ray is probably going to figure out how to do another painting, but he's maybe going to use something around him to inspire this new painting. Maybe you're thinking something similar. Let's keep that thought and let's move forward. Then he took a sip of water from his Dixie cup and began digging through his desk drawer for the rounded scissors and a bottle of glue. I'm not going to show Grandpa when I'm done, Ray thought. I'll let it be a surprise. 2 weeks later, Ray and Grandpa took the rattling L train to State Street, stopped by a hot dog stand for lunch, and then joined the sidewalk crowd gawking at the city's best kids' art, proudly displayed in a fancy schmancy department store window. Ray's entry wasn't a painting, it was a collage. Oh my gosh, readers, let's pause here for a second. If you remember, our prediction was that Ray was going to figure out a way to get another painting done. In some ways, it feels like we're correct. He found a way to do another art piece. But I'm also really surprised here. He decided not to make a painting, but to make a collage. He did something a little different than what we thought. The last night before the deadline, Ray had turned his ruined painting into something else. He'd used his rounded scissors to cut the painting into geometric shapes. With his pencil, he'd outlined the shape of one of Grandpa Half Moon's moccasins. Then he'd filled in the outline with multicolored shapes to create shadows and textures, to show how warm and strong the moccasin was, how it could make Grandpa feel like home. A dab of glue here and there, and suddenly Ray had created his entry. But that's not what made Ray smile. It was the way Grandpa pointed and yelled to the crowd, "That's my shoe! That's my shoe!" Everybody in the crowd looked down at Grandpa's boots, and they didn't know what he was yelling about. But Ray did. Even though his ribbon read third place, he felt like a first place winner. Wow, readers. This is so exciting as we think about the prediction we made. We started out making a prediction about what might happen next, what might happen later in the story. But now we're noticing the small details that support our prediction. We were thinking about our character. We were empathizing with how he feels and how determined he is to make things right. We also thought about how in our prediction, parts of it was correct, but then parts of it felt new and surprising. We can also think about how stories tend to go. We were thinking about how in a story, typically things get worse and worse and worse, and then they get better towards the end. There's a solution to the problem or a resolution. Readers, what we've done here is really important work. You have been working so hard to understand the stories you're reading. You've been giving yourselves comprehension checks and thinking about the mind work that goes into these books. And now we've been working on our predictions. We've been predicting what might happen next based on what's already happened in the story, what we know about how stories tend to go. Now we're thinking about our characters, thinking about what we know about them, empathizing with them, and we're looking for the small details. We're thinking about how those small details can carry really big meaning for us. So, readers, I'm going to get ready to send you off to read. Depending on where you are in your book, you might be doing any of these things. You might be giving yourself comprehension checks at the end of every chapter or after a long stretch of text. You might be thinking about how you can build that mental movie in your mind as you read. And many of us will be going back to our predictions and thinking about how we can bring in those small details, how we can check, yes, that prediction was true, and let me look at the details to support it. Or some of us might be saying, wow, my prediction was wrong. Look how surprising this part is. As you're doing this work, some of you might be tempted to do a little bit of jotting. So I'm going to leave you here with a couple of samples of some student jotting about predictions in their books. You might be noticing how a prediction states what might happen next. You might notice how some students not only state what happens next, but they also add in their because, their reasoning, their specific details. Today, you could try doing some of this jotting work. I can't wait to see what ideas and predictions we come up with next. Happy reading!